Today, we're diving into Matthew chapter 9. And let me tell you, this is not just some quiet collection of miracle stories. It's more like a revolutionary manifesto. We're about to see this rapid-fire sequence of events where Jesus basically challenges every rule in the book: religious, social, even the laws of physics.
So, let's just start with a question that really gets to the heart of this whole chapter. What if the point isn't about following the rules? What if Jesus' mission had less to do with, reinforcing the old ways and everything to do with blowing the doors open on a radical new reality?
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to look at how Jesus breaks all the rules. Then we'll see him forgive and heal, eat with the outcasts, talk about new wine and old rules, and even show power over life and death. And we'll wrap it up by looking at his core motivation, a shepherd's compassion.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're in first century Galilee, and you have to understand the religious world here is built on rules, super strict rules about everything: piety, purity, who's in the club and who's definitely out. And right into this really rigid world, Jesus is about to send some major shockwaves, one showdown at a time.
And the first big challenge? It happens right away. Some guys bring their paralyzed friend to Jesus. But, and this is key, the real shocker here isn't about the man's legs. It's about what Jesus says about his soul.
So Jesus looks at him and says this. Now, for you and me, that probably sounds pretty comforting, right? But for the religious experts watching, whoa, this was a completely outrageous claim. I mean, in their world, only God could forgive sins. That's it, full stop.
And that is exactly what these scribes are thinking to themselves. The text says they're sitting there like, this guy is speaking blasphemy. See, by claiming to forgive sins, Jesus just put himself on the same level as God. And that was the ultimate religious crime.
So Jesus, knowing exactly what's going on in their heads, poses this absolutely brilliant question. It takes this big, abstract theological debate and makes it super concrete. Think about it. Which is easier to say? Anybody can say, hey, your sins are forgiven. It's invisible, right? There's no way to prove it. But telling a paralyzed man to get up and walk, well, that's something you can see with your own two eyes. The results are immediate and totally undeniable.
And right then, he delivers the proof. He turns to the paralyzed man and says, get up, pick up your stretcher, and go home. And the guy does. He just gets up and walks out. So Jesus proves his authority to do the invisible, forgive sins, by doing the visibly impossible, healing this man. The game has totally changed.
Okay, so after claiming the authority of God, what does he do for an encore? He breaks a huge social rule. He goes and invites one of the most hated people in town to join his crew.
And to really get the shock of this, you have to understand what a tax collector was back then. These weren't just, accountants. They worked for the Romans, the occupying force. They often got rich by cheating their own people. They were seen as traitors, collaborators, pretty much the lowest of the low.
And Jesus just says 2 words to him. That's it. But this wasn't just a job offer. This was total acceptance for someone who was a complete social pariah. And Matthew, he just gets up, leaves everything, and follows him. Just like that.
But it gets even more scandalous, because later, Jesus is having dinner at Matthew's house. And you got to know, in that culture, eating with someone meant you accepted them. It was a sign of real fellowship. So when the Pharisees see Jesus kicking back and eating with a whole house full of tax collectors and other sinners, they are just horrified. They go up to his disciples and are like, why on earth is your teacher eating with these people?
Jesus' answer just flips their whole worldview upside down. He basically says, look, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. He's totally redefining his mission right here. He's saying, I'm not here for the people who think they've got it all figured out. I came for the ones who know they're broken.
So the conflict keeps escalating. We've gone from divine authority to social rules, and now we're getting into core religious traditions. This time, the issue is fasting, a really big deal in their faith. And the question is sharp. Hey, how come your disciples don't fast like the rest of us?
Jesus comes back with a simple analogy. He asks, how can you expect wedding guests to mourn while the groom is still with them? He's calling himself the bridegroom, basically saying, this is a party. It's a time to celebrate, not to be gloomy. But then he goes deeper and uses a metaphor that explains that something huge, something brand new is happening.
He talks about new wine and old wineskins. And his point is really powerful. He's saying this new, living, dynamic thing he's bringing, the new wine, it just can't be contained by the old, rigid religious system. You can't just slap a patch on it. This new thing is so powerful, it's going to burst the old system wide open. And all of this is building up to the ultimate display of authority. The chapter now brilliantly weaves two stories together, where we see Jesus go head-to-head with social isolation, with chronic illness, and yeah, even with death itself.
12 years. Can you even imagine that? For 12 long years, this woman had been suffering from constant bleeding. Now, under the religious law of the time, that made her ceremonially unclean, which meant she was a total outcast, completely cut off from her community.
So when she reaches out to touch his cloak in the middle of a crowd, she's risking huge public shame. Because according to the rules, her touch should have made him unclean. But something incredible happens. The exact opposite. Instead of her uncleanness flowing to him, his power, his cleanness, flows to her, and she's healed instantly. The whole flow of contamination just got reversed.
At the very same time, a synagogue leader, we're talking a pillar of the religious establishment, comes and begs Jesus to help his daughter, who has just died. When Jesus gets there, he tells the professional mourners, the girl isn't dead, she's just asleep, and they literally laugh in his face. But he just walks in, takes the dead girl by the hand, and she sits up. So let's recap. He's now shown authority over sin, over social barriers, over chronic sickness, and now over death itself.
So you have to ask, why? Why do all this? Why break every rule? Why tick off all the authorities? The last few verses of the chapter pull back the curtain and show us the real motive behind his mission. And trust me, it wasn't just about being a rebel.
First, he pulls out a quote from the ancient prophet Hosea, and it's like his mission statement. He says, God desires mercy, not sacrifice. What he means is, what God really cares about isn't just going through the motions of religious rituals. It's about showing real, compassionate love, mercy, to people who are hurting.
And this is why. He looks at the crowds of people and he sees that they're just distressed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. The original Greek word used here is powerful. It means he was moved right down to his guts. It wasn't pity, it was this deep, visceral compassion. Every single rule he broke, every outcast he welcomed, every person he healed, all of it was driven by this powerful shepherd's love. So in the end, Matthew chapter 9 isn't just a list of amazing things Jesus did. It's a powerful statement about what really matters. It's suggesting that real faith isn't found in just keeping a bunch of rigid rules, but in reaching out with compassion. And that kind of leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? As we look at our world today, who are the people who feel distressed and helpless? Who are today's sheep without a shepherd?